Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we are going to start today from chapter 14, verse number 8. I think we completed verse number 7 on Friday. And before we do that, a small request. We heard that Bhakticharu Maharaj is not doing very well. So I request everyone to please keep Maharaj in the prayers and please request Krishna for his well-being and, to make him healthy as soon as possible. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, all right. So let's recite this verse 14.8 and you can repeat after me. Tamastva ajnanajam vidhi
Tamatva jnanajam vidhi
mohanam sarvadehinam
mohanam sarvadehinam
pramadalasya nidrabhis
pramadalasya nidrabhi
tannibadananti bharata
sannibadnati bharata
tamastva ajnanajam vidhi
matyaganajam vidhi
mohanam sarvadehinam
mohanam sarvadehinam
pramadalasya nidrabhis
pramadalasya nidrabhi
tannibadananti bharata
sannibadhanti badnati bharata
तमस्त्व अज्ञानजं विद्धि
tamasya jnanajam vidhi
मोहनं सर्वदेहिनां
mohanam sarvadehinam
प्रमादालस्य निद्राभिः
pramadalasya nidrabhi
तन्निबधनन्ति भारत.
sannibadnanti bharata.
Anyone else would like to recite the verse?
Okay, I will do that,
Yeah, go ahead.
Prabhuji.
Go ahead,
Tamasta jnanajam vidhi
तमस्त्वज्ञानजं विद्धि
mohanam sarvadehinam
मोहनं सर्वदेहिनां
pramadal alasya nidrabhi
प्रमादालस्य निद्राभिः
tunni badnati bharata.
तन्निबधनान्ति भारत.
तमस्त्वाज्ञानजं विद्धि
तमस्त्व अज्ञानजं विद्धि
Vidhi
मोहनं सर्वदेहिनां
मोहनं सर्वदेहिनां
प्रमादालस्य निद्राभिः
प्रमादालस्य
pramadalasya
निद्राभिः
nidrabhi
तन्निबध्नाति भारत
तन्निबध्नाति
sannibadnati
भारत.
bharata.
Anyone else? Okay, so let's recite the synonyms. Tamaha,
Tamaha,
the mode of ignorance.
the
the mode of ignorance.
Tu,
Two,
but.
but
Ajnanajam,
ajnanajam,
produced of ignorance.
produce of ignorance.
Vidhi,
Vidhi.
no.
No.
Mohanam,
Mohanam,
the delusion.
The
the
delusion.
illusion.
Sarvadehinam,
Sarvadehinam,
of all embodied beings.
Of all embodied
all embodied beings.
Pramada,
pramada
Pramada,
with madness.
with madness.
with magnets.
Alasya,
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 indolence.
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 Nidrabhihi,
Nidrabhi,
and sleep.
and
And
sleep.
sleep.
Tat,
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 that.
that.
Nibadhanati,
Nibadnati,
Nati,
binds.
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 Bharata,
Bharat,
Bharat,
O son of Bharat.
O son of
O San Bharat.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O son of Bharata, know that the mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. Purport. In this verse, the specific application of the word tu is very significant. This means that the mode of ignorance is a very peculiar qualification of the embodied soul. The mode of ignorance is just the opposite of the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, by development of knowledge, one can understand what is what. But the mode of ignorance is just the opposite. Everyone under the spell of the mode of ignorance becomes mad, and a madman cannot understand what is what. Instead of making advancement, one becomes degraded. The definition of the mode of ignorance is stated in the Vedic literature. Vastu yathatmaya jnanavarkam vipraya jnana janakam tamaha. Under the spell of ignorance, one cannot understand a thing as it is. For example, everyone can see that his grandfather has died and therefore he will also die. Man is mortal. The children that he conceives will also die. So death is sure. Still, people are madly accumulating money and working very hard all day and night, not caring for the eternal spirit. This is madness. I just take a quick pause here. This is a very important point that Srila Prabhupada is making here. That people are busy in accumulating money. They are not interested in anything eternal which is related to the spirit. So how do we understand this? Now, why should we just be running after material things? Now, for example, the purpose of eating is to get nourished. It is not to get fat. It is not that we should gain weight and we should become go out of shape by eating. That is not the purpose of eating. The purpose of eating is basically that we should get nourished and we should stay healthy. That is what Krishna will also say later in this in the next chapters when he's talking about food in the three modes. But similarly, the purpose of earning money is not to become filthy rich, because what are we going to do with that kind of money? The purpose of earning money, money is just a means to live the life. It is not the purpose of our life. What happens in today's society is that money becomes the purpose of life. We all are so mad, and that happens to me also. Now we become mad in earning money. We just constantly think about from various different sources how can we earn money, and that keeps us running behind things. And that actually is a mode of it's a um, symptom of mode of passion, and we'll discuss it today how it is a symptom of mode of passion. But that actually what happens is what Prabhupada is explaining here is, this is madness, and madness is a symptom of ignorance. So we'll discuss this more. Let's continue here. So in their madness, they are very reluctant to make advancement in spiritual understanding. Such people are very lazy. This is very significant. People who are not inclined to spiritual spirituality, Prabhupada is calling them as lazy. They are spiritually lazy. They may be materially very active, but they are spiritually lazy. When they are invited to associate for spiritual understanding, they are not much interested. They are not even active like the man who is controlled by the mode of passion. Thus, another symptom of one embedded in the mode of ignorance is that he sleeps more than is required. 6 hours of sleep is sufficient. But a man in the mode of ignorance sleeps at least 10 or 12 hours a day. Such a man appears to be always dejected and is addicted to intoxicants and sleeping. These are the symptom of a person conditioned by the mode of ignorance. Okay, so we are discussing the three modes. So we have just covered the modes of mode of goodness and mode of passion, the description. So what Krishna is doing here is he's setting the stage for describing the three modes in detail. So he is just giving a brief introduction to the three modes here, and then later he will take the discussion deeper. So when he's giving the introduction to the three modes, he's talking about the mode of ignorance here. He's saying that, Tamastva ajnana jam vidhi mohanam sarvadehinam pramadalasya nidrabhi stan nibadananti bharata. So pramad, alasya and nidra, these three are the characteristic Krishna is describing. These three are the characteristics of the three modes of these three are the characteristics of the mode of ignorance, which is the tamoguna. So actually, one thing that Krishna does regularly in Bhagavad Gita is, he teaches by the tool of contrast. So he contrasts things. For example, we have understood so far, we have been discussing Bhagavad Gita for a while, and we see that the purpose of Krishna speaking Bhagavad Gita is actually to glorify bhakti, to develop our faith in the process of bhakti. So much glorification of bhakti he does. But still, he does talk about other parts also. He talks about Gyan, he talks about the Ashtang yoga, he talks about Karma yoga, and then finally he glorifies bhakti so much, and then he concludes with bhakti. Man mana bhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Become my devotee, offer obeisances to me. So in conclusion, he asks us to become a devotee, a bhakta. So people generally ask, no, if that is the purpose of Krishna, just to speak about bhakti, glorify bhakti, why does he even speak about other paths? Why speak about those paths when you don't have to actually recommend that path at all? So the answer that is given by acharyas is that, the tool of contrast is the best way to understand things. So for example, if I tell you that people who are from India would know that Times of India is the best-selling newspaper of India, I can say that Times of India is such a great newspaper. It has a circulation of 100 million. So you may think, okay, yeah, that's good, that's fine. But what is so great about it? But if I tell you that, the nearest competitor of Times of India is Hindustan Times, and it has only a circulation of 7 million. And after that, there is a Deccan Herald, which has a circulation of only 3 million. As compared to that, Times of India has a circulation of 100 million. So when I'm giving you a comparison between, the different newspapers in India, then you can understand what is the significance of Times of India in India. Similarly, when Krishna, what he does is he regularly uses the tool of contrast. So he talks about the path of Gyan, and then he contrasts it with the path of Bhakti. He does that in the 7th chapter, and then he's doing it now also in this section. Later we'll see that how he'll contrast the path of Jnana with Bhakti. Then in the 8th chapter, he has contrasted the path of Ashtanga Yoga with the path of Bhakti. And then in a comparative way, he establishes that how bhakti is the most superior way. In the 11th chapter, in the 11 point, if you remember 11.54, very categorically Krishna establishes bhakti as the most superior path compared to any other path. So similarly here, when Krishna is talking about the three modes, is using the tool of contrast to basically give us like a comparative analysis between the three modes. So first he talked about the mode of goodness, where he said that the mode of goodness is the best. He said tatra sattvam nirmalatvat. Nirmalatvat is the best. And prakashakam anamayam. So these are the characteristics he mentioned. Prakashakam, it is enlightening. And anamayam, maya means distress, and anamaya means where there is no distress. Sometimes the word maya is also used for ignorance, and when we say anamaya, that also means without ignorance. It is basically with knowledge. And then it says sukha sangena badhanati. So people who are in the mode of goodness, they badhanati means they get bound. And how? Sukha sangena. So Sukha Sangena and Jnana Sangena Chanagha. So these are the two characteristics of the mode of ignorance, mode of goodness, which basically binds the three modes of which basically binds the person who is in the mode of goodness. I'm sorry, I'm speaking. My slip of tongue is happening too much today. So, so how it is Sukha Sangena and Jnana Sangena. So a person who is in the mode of goodness, he thinks that I know so much, I know more than others. So that kinds of binds the person. And Sukha Sangena means this person is contented, No, he is content with whatever he has, and he is not hankering for anything. So in that sense, no, he has a, he has a feeling of sukha, which is happiness. If you have, if you're satisfied with what you have, then you will feel some kind of peace within. You're not hankering for something more. So that is the characteristic that he had given for a person who is in the mode of goodness. Now he has lot of knowledge, he has gyan. If you remember the definition of gyan that is given by Srila Prabhupada, when in the 13th chapter Krishna talks about gyan. Anyone remembers what is the definition given by Srila Prabhupada for gyan?
Knowing the difference between the body and the
Yeah.
soul. Yeah.
Matter and spirit. The difference between one who understands the difference between matter and spirit, he is in gyan, he is in knowledge. And similarly, he also gives the definition of intelligence. Anyone remembers what is the definition of intelligence given by Srila Prabhupada? I think that comes in the 10th chapter. It's important for us to understand what are these terms that are being used in Bhagavad Gita: intelligence and gyan.
Buddha Bhava Samanvita.
Can you translate that, Mataji?
I mean, the wise who know that I am the source of the material in the spiritual world worship me without any deviation standpoint.
That is what Krishna says, but Prabhupada defines intelligence in the purport in the 10th chapter. So he gives a definition for us to basically remember that what does intelligence really mean. So actually Prabhupada says intelligence means to see things in their proper perspective. When we take things out of context and when we don't see things clearly, then we are not very intelligent. So gyan is to know the difference between matter and spirit, and intelligence is to see things in their proper perspective. So a person who is in the mode of goodness, he is expected to have gyan, and he is expected to be intelligent also. He should be able to see things in their proper perspective. So that is the characteristic that is mentioned for a person who is in the mode of goodness. But then Krishna also says that sukha sangena badhanati, that also binds. How it is that the mode of goodness is like it is like a launch pad to go towards transcendence. For example, if I have to catch a flight from here to India, I have to go to the airport, and from airport I can take the flight to India. Similarly, a person who has to go towards transcendence, his best bet is to be situated in the mode of goodness, and from there practice, whatever path he has taken towards transcendence. That then he has the best chance. But if I go to the airport, for example, and if I set up a shop and start selling books over there, then I won't be able to go to India. And although I am at the airport and all the flights are leaving from the airport, but still I cannot go to India if I just sit there and do something which I'm not supposed to do. So these people who are in the mode of goodness, although they are very well situated, they are very well situated to go towards transcendence, but they get bound, through these things, through a like a feeling of happiness and a feeling of knowledge that they understand things better. So then Krishna actually also talks about the characteristic of the mode of passion. So we had discussed this last time. I think Vallavi Gopi Mataji very elaborately talked about it. So there Krishna had said, no, rajo ragatmakam vidhi trishna sanga samudbhavam. So rajo, no, rajo guna is the mode of passion. The word raja comes from the word ranga. That is the basic word for the root word for raja is ranga. Ranga means color. So actually nirmal also means white. So Krishna had said about when he was talking about mode of goodness, he said tatra satvam nirmalatvam. So satvam nirmalatva. So sattva is like whiteness, and then when the whiteness of goodness gets colored by redness of passion, then it basically, there is like a film that covers the mode of goodness, and that then it becomes rajoguna. So the characteristics that are given about Rajoguna is Trishna and Sangha. Now, Sangha is the basically the Sangha is like attachment to the things that a person has, and Trishna is the hankering for the things that a person does not have. So Trishna and Sangha are the two characteristics, and how does he get bound? No, karma sangena dehinam. So no, if I have to maintain the things that I have, and if I have to get things that I don't have, I have to work. No, I have to work diligently. And when I have to work diligently, if I work like cats and dogs throughout the day, no, then I will be bound by my work. So because I have so many desire, a person who is in the mode of passion, who has so many desires, and he is trying to fulfill those desires. So to fulfill those desires, he has to work. You know. So Prabhupada actually, in one of the purports in Srimad Bhagavatam, he actually talks about that how the majority of the population in Kali Yuga is in the mode of passion, you know. And then he compares that, you know, he gives the analogy of three animals. Actually, the analogy is given in the direct verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, but Prabhupada explains that analogy. So I am missing the verse in Bhagavatam, but I think the three animals that are used is it compares the person with a dog, with a camel, and with a donkey, mule. Anyone remembers what that verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam? Okay, no problem. So the context there is Prabhupada explains that how the person is compared to a dog, that just for some minute little things he works like a very obedient, you know, the dog, how it is, you know, dog is very obedient to his master. Similarly, the person who is working like a dog just for some small little like peanuts, so that is why he's compared to dog. Then camel, it is said in the Prabhupada explains in the purport that actually a camel, you know, he likes to eat the plant of cactus, and that cactus, and he likes it a lot. But what happens is, because the cactus has thorns, that the thorns actually cut the camel's tongue, and the blood comes out. And when the camel enjoys that taste, because you know that he doesn't understand that it is his own blood that he is eating, and he is enjoying that. You know, when the taste of the blood mixed with the plant of cactus, that taste is very, you know, relishable for the camel. Similarly, Prabhupada explains that, you know, we are working so hard in this material world that, you know, almost our blood comes out. But people who are, you know, workaholics, they enjoy that kind of lifestyle, you know. And then what happens is, we know, you know, people who are really workaholics, and I used to have a manager. He was very young actually, and he used to work like a workaholics. You know, you send him an email and he will reply at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 2 a.m. at night. I used to get surprised, you know, how can he be awake the whole night and work? And one day what happened is, and he was just very young actually. This is, I'm talking about almost about 7 years back. And he was just 2 or 3 years older than me. And one day he was sitting in a meeting, and then he just collapsed, you know, at his desk, no, on his chair. And then, you know, everybody rushed him to the hospital. And then actually the doctor said that he just had a heart attack, and at a very young age actually. At that time, maybe he was less than 35 actually, maybe around 32 or 33 years old. And that is a pretty young age. And after that, you know, his life has changed significantly. You know, it took a toll on his health. So and then he compares, Prabhupada explains that the analogy of ass, of donkey, is given because a person who works very passionately throughout the day, at night he wants to, no, he comes to his partner, his wife or his whatever partner, and then he wants to enjoy some physical intimacy. And then he Prabhupada writes that actually when the donkey wants to do that, the female donkey, it kicks the ass. And similarly, when the person who wants to enjoy such intimate relationships, he gets kicked in many ways, but still he enjoys those kind of relationships. So the point is, this
Prabhu, it is 2319. I just pasted in the chat.
thank you, Mataji. Yeah, I know you would probably find it. So you can read that actually. It's one of my favorite verses in Bhagavatam. So it kinds of really sums up, majority of the population in Kali Yuga, how they are working so hard, and how actually they're compared to three different animals. Prabhupada gives an excellent purport over there. One of the best purports that I've ever read from Srila Prabhupada. Very philosophical at the same time. It's very educational for us also. So the mode of passion binds a person with the sense of working. He wants to, because he has so many desires to fulfill, he has to work very hard to fulfill those desires. And then Krishna talks about the mode of ignorance. So tamastva agyan jam vidhi mohanam sarvadehinam pramadalasya nidrabhis tan nibadhananti bharata. So actually, the mode of passion is the antithesis of both mode of ignorance is the antithesis of both mode of goodness and mode of passion. So there, if you remember, in the mode of goodness, the characteristic was prakash. Prakash means it is knowledge. He has knowledge about things. He understands things very well. And here it is said the characteristic is pramad. Pramad means madness. So in one sense, pramad means, no, whatever is there in front of me, I cannot conceive that, I cannot perceive that. That is pramad. Pramad is madness. A person who is in the mode of goodness, he understands things very well. He can see everything, even the hidden things he can see from his knowledge. But a person who is in the mode of ignorance, he cannot even see things which are very there out in the open. He cannot understand those things also. And alasya is the antithesis of the karma. So karma is the characteristic of the mode of passion, and here it is alasya, means he is very lazy, he doesn't want to work. And there in the mode of passion, the person wants to work very a lot. And nidra basically is the opposite of both gyan and karma, because a person who is sleeping, he neither has gyan and he is neither working. He's just wasting his time in sleeping. And Prabhupada also explains that ideally a person should not sleep more than 6 hours. So this is how the person who is in the mode of ignorance gets bound. Now, if you read Srila Prabhupada's purports throughout this chapter and later also, in the 16th, 17th chapter also, Krishna actually talks about different things in these three different modes. So Prabhupada actually gives three different translations for guna. So we are discussing about these three gunas. So he translates guna as quality, he also translates guna as mode, and he also translates guna as rope. Rope means to bind. So actually, there is a little difference between the three things that Srila Prabhupada, these three different ways in which Prabhupada has translated the word guna. So let's understand what that means, and then we can move forward from there. Excuse me. So guna as rope means, it basically confines a person to a specific way of thinking, feeling, and acting. Thinking refers to mind. Feeling refers to, our knowledge acquiring senses, gyan indriya as we call it. And acting refers to our karma indriya, the acting senses, the working senses. So actually, and then the guna as quality refers to the defining characteristics of non-living things and the personality of living beings. And guna as mode refers to how the matter manifests to a particular living entity. Now, a person who is in the mode of ignorance versus a person who is in the mode of goodness, the same matter will manifest differently to that person, or to any living entity. So if we talk about these three things to understand it a little better, so rope refers to how a person will act, think, or feel in these three modes. So for example, say for example, a person who's in the mode of goodness, and say if you have to understand it from an example, say for example, three friends, and these three friends are in three different modes completely, and they're going somewhere in a bus, and then and then the bus passes by from a very beautiful looking, beautiful scenic place where there's a lot of grass, the hilly area, there is a lake nearby, very scenic environment. So how the three people will conceive this, or what would be their thinking about this? A person who's in the mode of goodness, he would think, no, this is such a nice place. If only I could sit here and read a book that I just got, and I can acquire some knowledge. It's a serene environment. I can do so much reading, sitting here without getting disturbed. So you might have seen, people generally, they will go to a like a scenic place, and they'll park their cars, and within sitting in their car they are reading books. Now I sometimes get confused, why are these people, if they're coming to lake, why are you sitting in a car and reading the books? But that is how they are, they just like doing that. They're not there to enjoy the beauty of the lake. They're here, it's a serene environment, and they want to enjoy reading the book. Similarly, a person who's in the mode of passion, if he sees this, he will say, how can I enjoy here with my girlfriend? I want to come here and have fun with my girlfriend. Such a nice place. It's such a beautiful place. And a person who's in the mode of ignorance, he will think that it's such a nice place. If I could sleep here, it's such a soft grass. I can lie down here in sunlight, and, I can sleep very well here. So these are the three characteristics, that is how, that is like, the uh, that is how they are conditioned to feel and think. Now I just gave a very crude example, but uh, we can understand how different people will react to the same situation differently. Similarly, when we talk about guna as quality, quality, we say that, okay, even different things are in different modes, even different times of the day are in different modes. So for example, Acharya explained, if we talk about time, acharyas explain that the throughout the different hours that are there throughout the day, even they are in the different modes. So they have explained that actually it is considered that morning 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. is generally in the mode of goodness. Similarly, they say that from 11 a.m. to about 7 p.m. in the evening, it is in the mode of passion. And from 7 p.m. to morning 3 a.m. is in the mode of ignorance. So that is why generally it is said that, we should get up early and try to do our sadhana early in the morning. So how it is, no, generally what happens is, depending on our the environment that is there, our consciousness gravitates uh, towards that mode. Whatever is the mode of environment there, our consciousness gravitates in that direction. So generally it is said that it is easier for us to concentrate our mind in the morning hours, and that is the best time to do our sadhana. Similarly, when we say that we have to work during the next phase of the day, because naturally we are in the mode of passion, and the time of the day is like that, it is very conducive for working. And then the third phase is very conducive for be in the mode of ignorance, in the sense that you can sleep at that time. People like to sleep at night. So the qualities, is so every non-living thing also has qualities. So that is what we are discussing. And even the living beings have their own personality. For example, some people are they are naturally short tempered. Some people are naturally very friendly, they are very outgoing, very friendly. So that is how their nature is. So when we talk about guna as quality, it basically describes the personality of living beings, and it describes the defining characteristics of the non-living beings or non-living entities. And then we talked about guna as so we talked about rope, we talked about qualities, and
Matter.
then guna is mode. So mode is basically how the matter will manifest to a living entity. So generally what mode means is basically it defines the interaction between the consciousness and matter. So for a person who is in the mode of goodness, matter will manifest as um, as a object of knowledge. He wants to understand that what kind of matter it is, how can I study this, and how can it benefit me in certain ways. So that is how matter will manifest to a person who's in the mode of goodness. He wants to study that matter. Similarly, a person who's in the mode of passion, for him matter manifests as a source of enjoyment. He wants to understand, how can I enjoy this, how can I increase my happiness, my enjoyment using this matter. And a person who's in the mode of ignorance, for him matter will not manifest only, because he is in either sleeping, or he's his pramad is basically madness. He's in the mode of madness, so he cannot perceive things properly, he cannot conceive of things. So that is how when we talk about guna as modes, so that means that this how the matter will manifest to the different living entities. Now it is important to understand that sometimes we say that for the supreme person, we describe him as, we say that he doesn't have any gunas. So when we say that he doesn't have any gunas, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have any qualities. That means he's gunatit. Gunatit means he's beyond the three modes. He doesn't have any material qualities. So because if the supreme being doesn't have any qualities, then he is not lovable. A person who has no qualities, he why would you want to associate with a person who has no qualities? So when we say the Supreme Lord has no qualities, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have any qualities. It means that he doesn't have any material qualities. He has all spiritual qualities, gunatit as we call it. So before we move on to the next verse, are there any questions or comments about what we have discussed so far?
Prabhuji, how matter manifest for the person who is in the mode, like you explained right just now.
Yeah.
For the guna as modes, you were explaining about the three persons in the mode of goodness and passion and ignorance. So how the matter manifests for a person who is in ignorance? Goodness.
Goodness is he wants to study that matter. He wants to understand, what that is, and he wants to, increase his understanding about that matter. So that is how the matter will. So it will manifest as a object of study, as an object of analysis.
And passion, you said, likes to enjoy, right?
Yeah, he wants to see
enjoy the matter.
Exactly. How can he enjoy that matter, whatever that matter is?
Then ignorance.
Ignorance, it will not manifest only, because he is either. So actually, there is a very nice article that I read on Back to God magazine. I'm missing the name of the Prabhuji who wrote that article. So he actually, in one word, he defines, how the persons in these three modes, how do they act. So he says that actually a person who is in the mode of goodness, he is contented. He is very happy. He is very self-satisfied. Whatever he has, he is satisfied with that. So contented, he uses that word for him. Person who's in the mode of passion, he's tormented. Tormented means he has so many desires and he is running around to fulfill his desires. So he's constantly tormented. He just wants to, somehow he has a list of things which he wants to fulfill, and to fulfill those things he's constantly running around. So he is in a lot of misery actually. So tormented means he is miserable. So because of his desire, he is miserable. And a person who is in the mode of ignorance, he is demented. Demented means he is like mad person. He will. So generally, in one of the purports, I forgot which purport it is, in Bhagavad Gita itself, Prabhupada explains that in both goodness and in ignorance, there is less activity. Activity is not there. In the mode of passion, there is a lot of activity. In the mode of goodness, there is less activity, and in the mode of ignorance also, there is less or no activity. But there is a lot of difference. In mode of goodness, the activity is not there because of gyan, because of intelligence. And in the mode of ignorance, the activity is not there because of madness, because of not understanding things. So there is a huge difference between the two. So so we are talking about a person who's in the mode of passion because he has a lot of desires to fulfill. Whenever he sees different matters, he wants to understand how can he enjoy that matter. So for example, if a person who's in the mode of passion, when he looks at a woman, that woman would appear to him as an object of enjoyment. So even if that person may call anyway, I don't want to discuss that, but That is how it is. Padmalochini Mataji, you have any further questions about that?
No, thank you, Prabhu.
But I also wanted to ask, what do you make of the people who are like worse than ignorant? You know what I'm saying? Like, who are, I don't know, Naradamas or low lives, you know, like who are.
No, that is also actually how it is Mataji, what I have understood based on what I have read in these three chapters. Actually, the gunas are described very thoroughly in chapters 14, 16, and 17. In 15, Krishna doesn't talk so much about the mode of good, these three modes, and even in chapter 18, he talks about it, but he is kinds of giving a conclusion of the. So if you read what is mentioned in 16 and 17 chapter, so how it is say for example, when we say that all the different colors that we have in that are known to us, they are combination of three different colors. So generally in computer we have the RGB code or RYB code. You remember that RGB, RYB? So actually three colors make the entire spectrum of colors, just three colors. So these three colors are actually compared to the three modes. Excuse me. So the color given to the mode of goodness is white, the color given to the mode of passion is red, and the color given to the mode of ignorance is black. So by the whatever we see it in this material world, different people may have different characteristics, different habits, different way in which they operate, but all of it is basically it is a different combination of these three modes. So later Krishna will talk about not how it is not so simple that we have these three modes and someone is in the mode of goodness, someone is in the passion, and someone is in the mode of ignorance. No, it is not like that. Krishna says that actually there is a constant competition going on between the three modes. So a same person will have all the three modes. He will have goodness, passion, as well as ignorance. But sometimes goodness becomes dominant, sometimes passion becomes dominant, and sometimes ignorance becomes dominant. So depending on which mode is dominant on that person at a particular time, he will act accordingly, or he will think accordingly, he will feel accordingly. So when we talk about people who are naradhamas, they generally have a high level of mode of passion and ignorance. Generally more ignorance, and mixed with mode of passion, and a very less amount of goodness. So when we talk about the 14 planetary systems, as you keep going higher, the 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 mode of goodness, it becomes more and more dominant. But it is not that a person who is in the satya loka, which is the highest loka, will only have goodness. He will not have passion and ignorance. He will have passion and ignorance, but in a very minute quantity. Even Lord Brahma at times gets illusioned. We see at that in Krishna's pastime, Lord Brahma also gets illusioned. So that means there is a mixture of modes, even, and it is even affecting Lord Brahma also. So what to speak about others? And as you keep going downwards, the mode of ignorance becomes more and more dominant, but it is mixed with mode of passion and goodness also. So goodness will be very minuscule, mode of ignorance would be very high, and mode of passion would be somewhere in the moderate level, something like that, if you have to understand that. So when you talk about Naradhamas, even Naradhamas would have the same composition of these three modes of material nature. And Krishna is going to talk about those characteristics in the 17th chapter, where he will describe that what are the different characteristics of people who are, demoniac. So
Right.
we'll see that here.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll say what are the consequence of a person who has a demoniac, demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
Very severe consequences. Even in this chapter, Krishna is going to talk about that a little bit. He'll say, what are the destinations of these people after death? A person who's in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance.
But obviously, people in that don't care, right? I mean, they do
Exactly.
not even understand.
They don't. Exactly. And that is why Srila Prabhupada writes in the, if you remember, in the second verse of the, or first verse of the, or second verse actually, in the 14th chapter, he says that a person who understands this chapter, he will be liberated. And this is the best knowledge that Krishna is giving. So how is it best? It is not that the knowledge about mode is the best. Krishna will talk about how to transcend these modes later. Towards the end of this chapter, Krishna will talk about, first understand what modes are affecting you, and at least understand that it is the modes that are actually degrading you, pulling you down. Once you understand that, then you can actually understand, then you can ask a question, how can I go beyond these three modes? How can I become gunatit? So that knowledge, how to go beyond these three modes, how to become gunatit, that is the best knowledge. And a person who really understands this, and Krishna also says that, one who takes shelter of this, upashritya, the word that Krishna uses in the second verse. Upashritya means a person who takes shelter of this knowledge will not take birth again in this material world. So take shelter means he will implement this knowledge, how to go beyond these three modes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So we have learned about Sattva, Rajo and Tamoguna today, and
Yes, Mataji.
mainly Tamoguna, what it does to, it brings you down, but Sattva-guna is the goodness, and Rajaguna is the in between, the materialistic, and Tamoguna is the not knowing what you are doing. So
Yes, Mataji. All three modes are materialistic only, Mataji. None of these modes are spiritual. But
you have to go above all these Sattva, Rajo and Tamoguna.
Yeah, and we also discussed. We also discussed guna as mode, guna as quality, and guna as what is that?
Rope.
Rope. Yeah, rope. Thank you, Mataji.
So that was what we learned today.
Yes,
What
that
you
is
said, that guna is quality and guna is what else you said, Ganapati?
Guna is quality, guna is rope, and guna is mode. These three things that we discussed, Mataji.
Mode, you said mode or mode?
Mode, M-O-D-E, mode.
Mode.
Yeah. Mode refers to how the matter will manifest to a person, to a living entity.
Right, but where is the rope come in? As
Binds.
binding?
Yeah, badhnati. Badhnati, what binds a person is rope. And if you look at it from a physical sense, so that analogy is used. So Prabhupada also translates this, the word guna as rope, what binds you. So binding is the characteristic of rope. So what is it that binds you? So it is basically, we have our own default way of thinking, feeling, and acting. Every person, when people who are very close to us, we can predict, how they will react to certain situations, how they will act in feel when, exposed to certain situations.
So when they have a name like Gunavati or something, for example, they're talking about somebody with good qualities, I guess, right?
Yeah, good material for good one. That is
Okay, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you
Have a
so
nice
much for
night. Thank you.
You too, Mataji. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, where is the purport for this call? Mode. I'm sorry.
No.
The
So
gunas.
he translates in these three different ways. So the same word, if we read these three chapters that we discussed, so he uses different translations, and then in the purports, if you read, he will explain things a little differently for the same word. Obviously, what Prabhupada is doing is basically in what context Krishna is using those three, the word guna. He is accordingly translating the word guna, and actually guna has these three. The word guna has these three. What is the word that I should use? These three
Three
characteristics. Three
aspects.
aspects, exactly.
Okay.
Three aspects. So and that is also used by other acharyas. So I believe even Ramanujacharya talks about gunas in these three ways.
No,
Not
Prabhu,
directly.
I don't have the doubt about that, but I was just asking where is the reference? Is any particular purport you have that?
No, if you go to Veda base and then you click on the word guna, then it will take you to the 1 second, Mataji. I'll quickly check. Yeah. Yeah, so if you click on the word guna, then it will basically take you to the different translations of the same word that Prabhupada had used. So there you can check, Mataji.
Sure, Prabhu,
So
I'll check that.
this is what I did is I'll just share my screen quickly so you can see. So this is verse 14.5. Here we have the word guna here, gunaha. So if you click here, it's a hyperlink. If you click here, then you will see the different translations that Prabhupada had used, have done for this verse. So then you can read this, Mataji. It's a
Okay,
little
thank you, Prabhu.
elaborate. You will have to read these purports and the translations that are there. So that way you will
Sure.
be able to quickly grasp it.
Yeah, even in Sanskrit, one word can have so many meanings also, correct?
Obviously, yeah. Actually, Sanskrit is a classic example of a multivalent language. Sanskrit is surely multivalent. Pyari Prabhu was also explaining the other day that
Right.
one word will have 25 different meanings,
Right.
and which meaning is applied in that particular verse, you have
Verse
to
is
understand by the
yeah.
context, in what context it is being used. Like we were discussing the word Brahma.
Brahman, yeah. Brahma and Brahman.
Brahma, actually Brahma means spiritual, but here it was referred to the material nature also is called Brahma. And actually that translation Prabhupada takes from Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya very clearly, very philosophically and very analytically explains how the word Brahma in that particular verse means material nature. And all our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas have taken the same thing from Ramanujacharya's commentary. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he has also used the same explanation that Ramanujacharya gives, and then other Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharya also uses it. Actually, I'm missing the names right now, but so basically, Sanskrit is a multivalent language, and same word may have different meanings.
And I think Brahma is a different word, I think, than Brahma.
Brahm is illusion.
Illusion.
Brahm means illusion. Yeah. Brahm and Brahma is different.
Different. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? We just have 5 more minutes, so I don't think we can start a new verse.
Yes.
Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
So Prabhuji, I was just thinking how to use this knowledge as a sadhaka. Number one is, if sadhaka has this knowledge, then as you said, Krishna is saying take shelter. But before taking shelter, sadhaka first has to acknowledge where he is. That may be like more like introspection, where he is under whichever mode or a combination of mode. That is number one. And number two is whether sadhaka want to use this knowledge to recognize when he interact with other people and use that as a form of his preaching way of helping those souls. Is that a right understanding of application of this knowledge?
Yeah, that is very good. I mean, you can apply this knowledge in different ways, and that is also perfectly, like a valid way to implement this knowledge. There is no problem with that at all. But to understand this clearly, we have to read everything about the modes. We can't just read 7 verses, 8 verses, and then see how we can apply this. We have to understand things in properly, everything that Krishna is saying about these 3 modes. That is one. So before we actually get into that kind of analysis or discussion, we have to read completely about these 3 different modes. The other thing is, now if we have to, how do we understand we in which mode we are? So first of all, Krishna will explain later in the same chapter. Now that verse is coming, that different modes are affecting the same person, and it is like a competition between the 3 modes. So at a given time, which mode is affecting us more, that is something that we can understand when we understand this knowledge clearly. Now, for example, Krishna will talk about that in the mode of passion, there is a lot of arambha. Arambha means there is a lot of endeavor, but there will be the person will not remain fixed. He will start a lot of endeavors, a lot of things, but he will not remain fixed in any one of them. So when we say a person, for example, a person, he keeps changing his job, he just can't remain fixed in one job. He will keep changing his lines, lines in the sense, his professions. So that is a characteristic of mode of passion. Now how it applies to devotee. So for example, you have a particular service, and after a few days you think, no, this service, no, is not good for me, I should not do this, let me do something else. Then you will do something else, then something else, then something else, like that. You will keep changing. So even in the materialists also say that a rolling stone gathers no mass. So many devotees are like that. They are devotees, they are dedicated to Krishna, but they just can't remain fixed in a particular service. They just keep changing one after another. There are some devotees who wants to do a lot of things, uh, uh, together. They are leading this service also, they are in that service also, they are in that service also, and ultimately what happens is they can't do anything, properly. They do everything, but they can't do it properly. So that is also a characteristic of mode of passion. And there are other ways also. People, like for example, I would sometimes do it. No, I would think that, okay, I have to read Srimad Bhagavatam. Then I think, oh, Bhagavatam is too philosophical for me, let me read some other book, maybe say Beyond Birth and Death. No, I would think, oh, it's a small book, I have been in Krishna consciousness for 20 years, 10 years. How long can I read a small book? Then I'll go to some other book. Like that. You keep changing your different things. You can't just remain fixed in something. So that is how you can understand that you're in the mode of passion. Mode of ignorance, how you can understand that from a devotee perspective. You just can't you know wake up in the morning or whatever. It's not necessary to do your sadhana in the morning only, but generally it is recommended. But people drag it, just keep dragging it to the end of the day. People will do right at the last thing in the day, they will complete their sadhana, their rounds. They just keep dragging things to the end. So that is a characteristic of mode of ignorance, delaying things, dragging things, so as much as possible. So this is how you can understand. Now, how this entire knowledge can be implemented for our preaching purposes. So first you have to understand the whole thing that Krishna is saying. So there are a lot of things to be discussed. So we can get into that analysis or that discussion when we understand these three modes clearly with all the descriptions that Krishna is giving.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Then I must be in the mode of ignorance. I'm always doing my rounds at the end of the day.
No, I mean, I just I just gave that example. Whether you don't have to feel that way, but that is like delaying things is a mode of, it's a characteristic mode of ignorance. Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, quick question, Prabhu. If a person is doing any activity in relation to Krishna at any point of the day, still it is considered under three modes, isn't it? Transcendental.
No, it is transcendental, but the way you are doing that thing, that kinds of describes, what mode is affecting you at that particular time. So any activity that you do for Krishna, you are reading Shastra versus you are reading some mundane book. Definitely reading Shastra is transcendental. But the way you are reading Shastra and the way, you're conceiving Shastra, that kinds of determines in which particular mode is affecting you at that particular time. So it doesn't mean that, if you are chanting Krishna's name, the modes are not acting on you. The modes will act. If you are in the mode of ignorance and you're chanting, you'll keep falling asleep like this, or you will do 10,000 other things along with your chanting. And when the people who are in the mode of passion, even when they're chanting, it's very difficult for them to concentrate their mind. And that happens regularly with all of us. How to concentrate our mind at the time of chanting, and that kinds of tells us that we are in the mode of passion, because the mind is restless. In the mode of goodness, the mind becomes stable. Krishna will say that later. It is content in whatever activity it is doing, it will do very nicely. So the mind, controlling mind during chanting, it is, or people who are not able to control their mind at the time of chanting, that is a characteristic of mode of passion. So everything that we do in this material world, even though the activity could be related to Krishna, but because we are in the material world and the material world comprises of the three modes of material nature, it gets to a certain extent, it gets, it gets affected by the three modes. It's just that we have to realize that and then try to uh, persevere to go beyond the modes. Once we understand that what mode is affecting us, then we can try to, go beyond that mode. Krishna will talk about that later in the same chapter, so I don't want to jump the gun and go there. So we'll go there sequentially with these different verses that Krishna is speaking here in the 14th chapter.
So in a way, you're saying, Ganapati Govind, obviously it's best to chant in the morning, but it is better to chant than not chant at all,
Yeah, right, Mataji.
Any time of the day,
Exactly. No, it is best to chant in the, but so when we take a vow, we don't take a vow that I'll complete my rounds before 4 a.m. in the morning.
Although even Srila Prabhupada says better to do at least half your rounds by noon or something, he has said, And actually someone asked Niranjan Maharaj one evening, and I was there, this was witness in front of my eyes, asked the question, when is it, best to chant your rounds, and he mercifully, he knew I was around listening to him. So, and I generally, because I, work early in the morning, and my work day is long from 7 to 7 at that time, and even, and he said, find a fixed time in your day, when you can finish your rounds, don't keep it till the last minute, till the end of the day. But if it's like, the most amount of time you have is from like 6 to 8 or something, do that fixed time every day, and do it, So that's the answer he gave. So I don't feel so bad that I'm doing it from 6 to 8 or something.
But I can tell you, it is good to finish anytime in the day. I know some devotees who actually, they, what do they do? I met some devotees in Vrindavan when I went there. So what they said is they have a lot of pending rounds from previous days. That means they didn't complete their 16 rounds, so they kept on, piling their rounds up. So one devotee told me that I have a pile of 348 rounds or something like that I have to complete.
I know.
So,
believe me, when I was a neophyte, I've tried that. Believe me, I have perfectly tried that. And at some point, this was when I was in my younger days, when I had like young children and I have a full-time job, and how RIT jobs are crazy. And in those days, I had to even work at night sometimes, go in for calls at night and like that. And those key rounds, after a while, you have to realize you just give up. You cannot just make up 348 rounds.
Exactly.
You can't. So then you realize you have to come. I mean, that's why I took initiation pretty late in my life. You cannot take initiation and promise to do 16 rounds when you really can't do it. If your life is kind of completely crazy and for various reasons, but you have to come to a point where you have to do the 16 rounds somehow, in the day. If you just keep accumulating, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
So to answer your question, it is best to do in the morning, or it is good to do anytime in the day. Just finish your rounds. Don't take it to the next day.
And I know even amongst our congregation, mothers who have full-time careers and little young kids, with under different activities, sometimes stay up maybe on a Friday night till 2 a.m. in the morning and do it, finish it the same day, but pretty late in the day, because it's sometimes it's kind of no choice,
Yeah.
But I actually admire that at least they're doing that,
Yeah. No, that is right, Mataji. There could be some practical reasons which we cannot understand.
Yeah, which we cannot understand.
Yeah. So and that, so Krishna will talk about that also actually. So he will talk about one of the characteristic of mode of goodness. He is too much in goodness. He has a lot of bookish knowledge, but there is no practicality. He doesn't know how to apply that practically, that knowledge that he has. So I mean, we can talk about these things that it is good to do, like best to do in the morning. Some people become too offensive that if you're not doing it in the morning, then you are not a devotee only. That is
right. I mean,
they
that
condemn.
is so offensive.
So
yeah,
they become offensive. So that is not good. We shouldn't go there. Actually, those kind of things are detrimental for our own sadhana, our own spiritual.
Prabhuji, I think we should be strict to ourselves and lenient to others.
Exactly,
yes. Niranjan Maharaj said that one time. You're right, Padmalochani. He said we should be strict with ourselves and lenient with others. Yeah.
That is the characteristic of a Vaishnava.
Yeah.
A pure Vaishnava will think that he is a disgrace to the Vaishnava assembly. You know? No, he will not think that I am such a great devotee that I finish all my rounds before 4 a.m. in the morning. You know? Even though he will do that, but still he will not.
Right. And haven't you seen our own acharyas, the more pure devotees they are, the more they think they are useless, even in their songs, they say like, I'm useless, they keep telling Krishna,
Right. But they are doing the best service.
Yeah, they're like so pure and elevated, but that's the symptom of knowledge, real knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Because even in material life, people who are like very highly knowledgeable, they're humbler. I mean, I'm not saying not all material people, but the more you know, the more you actually recognize how much you don't know.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so I think it's we are past time now, so we can end here. Thank you everyone. Thanks for joining. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhyobhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna.
Hare